Just personal satisfaction is probably my biggest inspiration for my personal work. I just like to see what would happen. My inspiration just comes from, just day-to-day goings-on, and I just think about things that I think are kind of humorous or interesting, and then I like to do them.
So I've been making films for a pretty long time. Obviously, it just kind of started out kind of kids around church, and my father started a media camp. He has a heart for media and for training youth in media. So I started in that media camp when I was about 13 or 14. And a lot of those kids that I worked with in the media camp, I'm still very close with today. My dad has obviously been a big impact in my life. And then, I kind of work closely with him as an instructor in the media camp in the summers. And that's kind of what I do now as well, in addition to teach.
When I first started working there, of course, I met some people. I started talking about movies. And I found that there were some other people that might be interested in making movies. So I've loved movies pretty much my whole life, and I've watched them. When I got to college, and I started thinking about what it'd be like to start making films and telling my own stories. And then when I got out and I got a job and I got to WRTV, I met a couple people who were also interested in making films, so it started from there.
I think as it relates to media camp, it's my job to kind of train them. Now I'm kind of more focused on kind of training the next generation of filmmakers and inspiring them and giving them these tools, make sure that they understand basic filming principles, they understand sort of the shots, whether it be close-up or full shots, they understand camera composition, they understand at least basic lighting, because the media camp itself is only like a few weeks. So you can't really teach them everything, but you can teach them basic story structure. I think filmmaking is just taking an idea and making it visual. There's no rules. You can do whatever you want to do. Most of my films that I made were always about things that I was really interested in. I made so many movies growing up about just skateboarding. We would just be in parking lots skateboarding. We would just shoot all this footage, and then we just try to put a narrative behind it. Probably one that sticks out to mind was my senior year in high school. We made a film called Home of the Brave. It takes place kind of at a restaurant that a friend's grandparent owns. So we got to film in a restaurant. So it just kind of tells the story of more or less how important it is to not judge a book by its cover. And that was kind of a film that we made, and we submitted it in a competition called the Prelude Awards that the Children's Museum sponsored. And we ended up getting third place, so that was a really big honor. Still something I'm very proud of today. But then you get a chance to kind of tell the story and people get to see it, so it gets out of your head per se.
First film that we made was a film that I helped out on. It was a film by William McKenna called Sketch, and it was shot on 16mm film, and it was done at Memorial Gardens at Butler.
I had never shot on 16mm, and I wanted to learn how to do it. I wanted to learn how you set up a camera. I wanted to know how you counted how many footage of film that you had. I wanted to know how you made sure you had the f-stop right. I wanted to learn all these different things that you have to do with film cameras because I had never really worked with it before. It was a learning experience more than anything else. It tells a very basic story, just a couple of minutes long, but I learned a lot from it, and they learned a lot from it as well. And then we went on from there to do another 16mm film called Reaper Madness, which is just basically kind of a Keystone Cops type Hard Day's Night kind of thing with a lot of different sight gags and things like that I thought was humorous. I play whatever role they need me to play. Sometimes I'm the lead. Sometimes I'm the guy just pulling the dolly. Sometimes I'm the guy just putting out the lights. Sometimes I'm a secondary character. Sometimes I'm holding the boom. Sometimes I just go because I like being there. I just like to see what's going on and be there for support in case I am needed.
Well, I've done a lot of different things, but typically I'm a director and writer when I do my own films. I've also shot a little bit, and of course when you're organizing a film or whatever, you kind of play producer as well. So I've kind of done all of those things, but mostly director, writer.
I still like to make videos from time to time. I go on bike trips, on the bicycle. We travel across different parts of the country. We ride from here to there and sleep and keep riding, and I like to document those kind of things. I do a lot of things as hobbies. I enjoy playing a lot of music, record a track that I like, and I'll play it on a couple instruments, and then just kind of share it with family and friends and doing mashups and DJing and things like that. So I do like to document those.
I've been painting for a number of years. I've done hundreds and hundreds of paintings, and I've actually made short films about my paintings. Recently I took up bike riding. I've actually made some time-lapse video projects using my iPhone on my bike because I'm interested in time-lapse photography that I've used. I like model building. I've been building models most of my life and miniatures and things like that. That's probably what got me interested in films, you know, Star Wars and ILM and the model kits and all that stuff that was a part of my youth is something that I've kind of kept with me my entire life. I started building models in the early 1970s and I've never stopped.
So I do photography, I also do poetry. The reason I like to write poetry is because also I feel like if ideas come to you in the form of images, then it's an easy way to just write down and be, without a particular structure, just go straight to the page and like write down those images and kind of like, because the images can have a feeling or an emotion. And I hope that my films reflect that as well. My films they're not experimental per se, but I think they have a traditional narrative, many of them. But I would hope that if someone were to watch it, they'd feel like they have a poetic feel at times. If there's just one film or one part of the film that speaks to someone emotionally or gives them a thought that maybe they hadn't had before, or if it inspires them in any way, then I feel like I've done my job. Just to connect with people and give them an emotion or give them a thought or give them inspiration. So that does that with anybody, then it's worth doing.
The hardest thing about filmmaking is really understanding the pre-production, especially when I teach kids. They have a million ideas and they're so excited and they haven't thought about, I should write everything down. I should figure out what shots I'm going to film. I should make a storyboard. I should make a shot list. I should scout locations. I should make an equipment list. You know, these are things you should all do before running and picking up a camera. So to me, the easy thing is filming. The hardest thing is taking the time to make sure you have a successful filming.
The hardest thing in filmmaking is getting all the resources you need to do it. It's a lot more than just getting a camera and lights and audio equipment and things like that. You have to have people to help you. You have to have people in front of the camera. You have to have people who can volunteer their time to carry equipment. You have to have a plan. It's a lot more than just turning on a camera and see what happens. You actually have to do a lot of preparation, and then you have to execute the plan that you have in place before the day of production. So there is no such thing as just turning on a camera and seeing what happens. There's a lot of work involved, and that's the only way it's ever going to work.
Hardest thing to do, I would say, is communicating your vision from the initial idea and following it all the way through to the final product. But it's also important that you work with people who are on the same page as you. Projects come to me in the form of images. I made a film where I just had an image in my head of a ballerina dancing in front of a Christmas tree. And so I kind of built a story around that to build to that image. That's the way that the stories come to me. I have an image or two or something. And you can get those images from a lot of different places. You can be driving around listening to a song and but that's the way that the things typically come to me and inspire me to make something more out of.
The best advice is just get out and do it. You might make 10, 15 movies that don't turn out. Some of them may never get done. You may lose footage. You may have all kinds of technical problems. But at the end of the day, all you need to do is just get it done. And the more you do it, the more you'll improve. So your first film may not be where you want it to be. If you save that and you look back, then you'll see where you improve from a technical standpoint, from a narrative standpoint. That's really what it's about. It's just about getting out there and having fun.
Don't wait till you got a camera. Don't wait till you have this. Don't wait till you have that. Shoot it with your phone. Put it together. You'll be surprised what kind of little stories you can take. Start small and then build big. And a short film doesn't have to be very long. A good story can take place in 1 minute. Another bit of advice I would give, don't make fan films. If you're interested in like Harry Potter or Star Wars or genre film or horror film, this, that, and the other, don't make those films. Make a film that's your own. You don't own Star Wars, you don't own Harry Potter or Buffy the Vampire Slayer or any of those things. So you'll just be taking someone else's ideas and just kind of changing them around, and they won't be your own. Make a film about brushing your teeth. Make a film about riding your bike. Make a film about what is your journey walking from home to school. There's a story there. You don't need to make a fan film about Star Trek or Star Wars or anything like that. You can just make a film about something that you feel, something that strikes you as important, that comes from within your soul. And that's what I've tried to do with my films. I've just tried to make films that are from within whatever I am. And I think I've been relatively successful. And at the end of the day, that's why I make films. Everybody can tell a story. Your mom can tell a story, your dad can tell a story, grandparents. They just need to do it.
If there's just one film or one part of the film that speaks to someone emotionally or gives them a thought that maybe they hadn't had before, or if it inspires them in any way, then I feel like I've done my job. Really, I'm just putting the stuff out there for people to connect with, just to connect with people and give them an emotion or give them a thought or give them inspiration. If that does that with anybody, then it's worth doing.
My personal impact isn't important. I think it's just important that whatever we're learning, we're passing it down to the next generation. I think that's important. I think it's so easy nowadays just to do special effects, and it's so easy if I leave that legacy as, you know, our students that graduate. Some of them go on to study telecommunications, and I've been keeping up with some of the work that they do, whether it's in sports or news. And that's just awesome to see. You know, I can't take full credit for that because they've worked really hard, but it's nice to kind of have been there when they were first learning it.
I just get inspiration in the strangest times. Sometimes I'm maybe just driving to work and something will pop into my mind. I like to do that. It just comes from usually within myself. Everything is just out of my head. That's usually what inspires it, just things that are bouncing around in my noodle. I wrote a short story a number of years ago, a fictional short story, and I really wanted to adapt it, and I worked with my son on it, who's interested in animation, and he was able to animate a very nice animation from this short story called Christmas Bush. It was really neat. I can't do animation. I did help with the voiceover, but my son was able to take my idea, my short story, and make it into a really nice narrative story, and I'm really proud of it, that it brings him happiness. And it's not negative. There's so much heaviness in the world right now. There's always kind of been heaviness in the world, but it just seems now as I've gotten older, I'm just a little bit more sensitive to it. I don't want to contribute to any more ugliness to the world. I just want to do fun things that might make someone smile. At the very least, it doesn't hurt anybody. So my legacy is, as far as a filmmaker, you know, I probably won't have a big legacy as a filmmaker, but I want to have tried. I don't want to exit this world and go on to whatever happens next, having not given it my best shot, you know, doing what I could do. I'm never going to be Steven Spielberg or George Lucas or Francis Ford Coppola, but it doesn't mean I don't have ideas that are worth putting out there, and I think everybody does.